What's up, buddy?
Hey, dude, what's going on?
Doing all right?
I'm making it, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Doing
Good,
pretty
man.
good. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you doing it.
Absolutely.
All right. My audio okay, my video okay. You can see me and hear me everything perfectly, huh?
Yeah. Vice versa.
Do what now?
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear and see me okay?
I can't see you, but I can hear you okay.
Interesting.
There we go.
How about now?
Yep, there you go. See ya.
Yeah.
Cool, Addison. Really do appreciate you. I love the new beard you got going on.
Yeah. Yeah. It was about decided to take it to the next level.
Is that the quarantine beard hair?
Yeah, I think it probably started out as that, and I was like, I kind of like it. We'll just leave it. Kind of going into a new era. I feel like in general, whether it's musically or anything else, a new look never really hurt.
Yeah. Well, man, you're here. We're going to be talking a little bit today. I don't really want to ask the normal interviewee questions like, how did you start your music journey? Because if you're the artist, you've already said that 20,000 times and your fans have already heard that 20,000 times. So what I do is I like to get a little insight, and then I just like to have a chat, like two friends sitting at a bar. I don't drink, but I'll be drinking a Coke, you'll be drinking a beer.
Yeah.
So so yeah,
yeah.
You
I don't drink.
Okay, cool. Well, I just want to say something real quick before we actually jump into this thing. I usually don't listen to a lot of independent music on my own. I will check it out here and there because I want to get people on the show. And some people aren't good and some people are good. So it's like, if you make it on my show, you're good, because I don't want to lie to my people. You know what I mean? It's just this weird thing that I have. But let me just say something. Can't Go to Heaven. I know that's an old song, but dude, that's still the jam sandwich. I was just listening to it here this morning, man. It's and I'm not just saying that because I've said it on previous podcasts before. I was like, I want to get this Addison Johnson guy on because this song is just a jam.
Man, I appreciate it, man. That was the one that kind of started it all right there. Started the whole shebang. Anyways, I mean, it was, so I definitely appreciate it, man.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is you consider all the songs that you write like 3-minute mini movies. And I agree, because like Thin Blue Line or Can't Go to Heaven, I can see that playing in my mind, but like a lot of songs you can, but I think these are more like, you're the Raising Hell type of guy, you're counting 1 to 4 beers. Then you got, there's 5 girls, 6 girls. Here we go. We're going down the path. And it's like, I can see that guy sitting there drinking, not having a care in the world. Like you said, Can't Go to Heaven, Raising Hell. And it's like, well, that's a good play on words there. And it's kind of a 90s traditional George Strait, Randy Travis sounding song, which I think the 90s, in my opinion, is the best era of country music, period. And probably music, but that and Thin Blue Line, those are the two that are most memorable to me because, like you said, they're mini movies. I can see them in my head. And I appreciate, and I appreciate you and someone that has that kind of care in the product that they put out. They're not just putting product out to say, oh, I have 40 songs out on iTunes, go listen.
No, for sure. Story songs is something that I'm outrageously passionate about. Just purely because, I think that's what the genre in general was founded on. Now, I love country music and it's very close to my heart, but I don't consider myself as a genre homer necessarily. I think I have a lot of different influences in my stuff, but with that being said, what really propped up, I think country music and made it great was story songs. And, a lot of people that I hold to a high regard, like Christopherson and Willie and guys like that, that's where they really laid their foundation, and I miss the days of, I saw an article probably a couple weeks ago about full album listening, and how society today kind of just takes one song and it's kind of like fast food almost. You just go, you pick up your burger, you move on, and nobody ever really sits down and has an entire meal anymore and ingests what, an artist is trying to get at or trying to say. And that's something that I'm very passionate about doing. And if I can even smash all that into one song and give somebody an experience where they're driving down the road and their mind just drifts off and they're not thinking about their problems or what's going on in their life, they're just living in the song. That's something I certainly strive for, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, being an artist, well, let alone 2020, but just in this generation where we're at is very hard, because not only is there 10 times more people trying to make it, but there's also not that much people listening to everything now. Like, I remember before the streaming came out, let's see, I'm almost 23. So yeah, I remember you having to buy the album from Walmart, the CD hardcover, in order to hear all the songs. And I'm like that today. I'm an album person. Like, I'm pumped because Morgan Wallen tomorrow is putting out this double album, and I'm like, here we go, 30 songs, let's go. Because I'm not a fan of every song that comes on the radio. Not even in the 90s.
Sure.
But there's always going to be at least 1, 2, or 3 songs that I like on the album. And I'm always the person that's like, my favorite song from this person is an album cut. And everybody's like, I have no clue what you're talking about, man. I've always been that way. Still am today.
Yeah. No, what's funny is I probably try to build my live show around that. My live show is very original centric, but I also try to hit that nerve of basically, if you love the song but you can't remember the title to it, and that's the songs that I like to fill my show with, because it's not something that everybody's going to do. You're not going to walk into another club or another venue and hear that song, because it's not the most popular thing in the world, but
Sure.
You remember it. And so doing stuff like that is something that I'm passionate about as well. That those back album cuts, that those, in my opinion, are the gold in the album a lot of times. And all it takes is just a little digging to find them. Because the radio and the singles in general, that they're feeding us what they want us to hear a lot of times, but that's what the label wants to hear a lot of times. A lot of times what the artist wants you to hear is song number 7 and 8, and so that's it's definitely kind of a cool process.
But I wonder, is it because I'll take Blake Shelton, for example, because I don't think he's no longer putting any kind of albums out. I think he's sticking strictly to just singles. And I wonder, is that the smart way to go about it, or is that just the new way to do it?
Yeah, I certainly think it's a popular way to do it. The way that streaming is set up now, and with basically the analytics that go into it, you're going to be a lot more profitable to get more streams if you were releasing singles every 4 months compared to one album a year. And on my end, I've tried to do a little bit of both, because I still love the traditional aspect of releasing a record. I think it's almost your homage as an artist to release a record. And while singles are cool, just like we were talking about, I'm not sure if that tells the whole story about, what's going on. And I write a lot of story songs that have, nothing to do with me necessarily, but I might hide tidbits of me in those songs. And I think to really get to know the artist and get to know where they're at in their lives and what they're feeling, an album is really important. So, but to answer your question, I just think it's more probably the popular way to do things these days with the emergence of streaming. I've been recommended by several of my peers and stuff like that it's certainly better to release single after single after single, and then even do an EP and not a full album. Dark Side of the Mountain that we're currently under pre-order for is my very first full album. I've just done EPs before this, so it's something that I've always wanted to do, and if it goes well, I'll probably keep doing it.
Yeah, there's certain artists, like I think Luke Combs fits that category now, where he's at the Garth Brooks standard of selling albums. Because I mean, I can go to a Garth Brooks concert and know every song he sings. Sure, he doesn't sing the album cuts, but if he did, I'm pretty sure every person in the audience would know it. And I feel Luke Combs is in that realm where it's at now, because I know every album from both the albums he puts out. And it's just one of those where it's like, well, why can this person put out an album and it be 37 tracks and everybody know every single one? But if this guy that's just as popular puts out a 37 track album, it's not going to sell near about as much.
Yeah. And I think that's just, a lot of that is just, it can be style wise and it can be content wise. We're all trying to make it to a certain extent. I hate the term make it. I think everybody can make it, but make it to one person means something different than to someone else. But as far as like making one album, a full album successful to another, I think it's just content, man. If you're able to strike a nerve with, the people that listen to country music, which for the most part is working class people, if you're able to get that across, and Luke is certainly a great songwriter, and has probably a little bit more traditional influence than I would say most of the things on radio. I think that's probably fair to say, and I think that hits a chord with a lot of older fans, and it's something fresh and new, kind of for younger fans as well. So I think he's got a lot of good stuff going on.
Well, I want you to define this for me. What is a kayak tournament anchor?
Yeah. So, I grew up fishing, and it's always been something that, I've been extremely passionate about. My family is full of semi-professional fishermen, and so I actually ended up, I travel too much to get a boat or anything like that, but the kayak fishing has just exploded. I mean, it's hard to even put into words. It's like the gold rush, and
Wait,
they're not even.
Are you actually
kayaks,
fishing in a kayak?
Yeah. Well, they're practically mini bass boats these days, but yeah, it's a kayak, and we had a tournament down in Shreveport, Louisiana, for the national championship, and that was for $100,000 out of a little plastic boat. So it's turned into a big deal. But for me, I've got several great partners and stuff like that support me on the water and behind the mic, and so it's a way to help them and just a way to get out and relax when I'm not on the road.
I'm in Mississippi, so I understand the outdoorsy fishing and hunting thing, but you have to have some type of patience to just sit and fish all day long. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not as like, I try to explain it to people, because like what we do, tournament fishing in general is so much different, because it's not you catch a fish and then you just release him back. When you set the hook on a fish, there can be $10,000 tied to the end of that line, and that'll certainly get your adrenaline pumping. It's not necessarily just a nice leisure day on the lake anymore. It's a little bit more intense than that. And you know, I don't know, man. I think it's probably different for everybody, and what kind of fishing you do. But as a bass fisherman, it stays pretty intense all day. Now, I'm not saying that I don't go out there and get bored out of my mind sometimes, because it's just not very good and it sucks. But for the most part, we have a pretty good time.
And from what I'm aware, your grandpa, great grandpa, and uncle were big fishermen as well. So that's kind of how you got that trait.
Yeah, absolutely. Growing up going with them, you know, they were huge influences in me. Two very, very great men, just all around. And you know, I don't think they ever understood why I wanted to move to Nashville to begin with, but you know, here we are. But I certainly learned a lot from them.
But does a family member or a parent or whoever that actually really does care, really want you, they want you to chase your dreams, but they don't want you to go far away from home and get crushed and nobody be there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, I probably didn't give them much choice. Yeah, you know, it was just, you know, I moved down here with nothing. I don't come necessarily from means necessarily. I just, I wanted to, and really didn't have a set of goals or really anything like that. Just going to come down here, and I knew this is what I wanted to do. I've always said, you know, there's two kinds of people that move to this town. There's people that want to do it, and there's people that have to do it. And I think I fall under the have to do it line of that. And you know, it was hard in the early years, man. It was really hard. Working. I was going to school at MTSU, majoring in beer and girls for the most part, and I was working 40 hours a week on top of that, and trying to write songs in the evening, going to writers' rounds, and just trying to figure out, you know, what to do. That's the thing about this job that people don't understand is, you know, when most people go into work, they've got what they're supposed to do for that day and how they're supposed to do it, and they have a boss that tells them. And in this business, there is no rule book. There aren't things lined out for you. You don't know what you're supposed to do. You don't know what you're going to do to get the best out of yourself or your career, for that matter. So it's a lot of trying and failing and everything in between.
Yeah, but don't you learn from those failures? Like, you know what I mean? You're going to learn from the failures more than you're going to learn from the success. And that's, you know, let's just say tomorrow you sign this giant record deal, and they're like, okay, we're going to sign you for, it's not how it works, but we're going to sign you for $12 million and you're going to get 6 albums. Here we go. You're like, wow, nothing that I did and accomplished successfully got me here. It was what happened to me. I fell down, broke my leg on the stage. That showed me, okay, don't jump around as much. You know, you learn from the failures more than you do the success. And I think that's where a lot of people don't get it, because a lot of people only care about 2 parts of our movie. The first part is the rise to where we are. The second part is the final part where you downgrade, you jump down the ladder and you're done.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and you know, I think without a doubt, you know, yeah, I would say probably the most surprising thing to me has been the sacrifices. To be completely honest, it's one of those things where this business asks so much of you and promises nothing in return ever. And a lot could be said for life like that, but this industry, and especially, like, that's why I've seen, when I moved here, I probably had 30 friends that I knew that I could call any time, go right with. It's probably down to 3 now. And it's because people weren't willing. It doesn't mean they weren't talented enough. A lot of them were way more talented than I am, but they weren't willing to, you know, not get married right away, not have kids. They got tired of being broke, you know, got tired of paying dues, got tired of paying bad gigs to nobody. And as part of the sacrifices and the procedure you got to go to, if you really want it, that's just kind of, that they call it paying dues, and it sounds a lot easier saying than it is doing.
You know, I'm also an independent podcaster. I'm doing everything on my own, booking guests. Like, you know, I came to you as like, hey, come do the show. I book guests, I produce, I have my own production company, and I'm doing it. And I feel the podcast and radio realm is the same as Nashville or Los Angeles trying to make it in music, because there's just such this melting pot of people that want to do it and become successful, that I look at people that they're like, you know, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. And I'm just like, you know, I've been doing it for almost 4 years, I think, almost 5 years, something like that. And it's like, I haven't given up because I know this is what you want. And I use this quote a lot from Mark Cuban says it. And he's like, when you're doing something you love for free and you're consistent and you're banging it out, imagine the process and the moves you're going to make when you start making money on it and start making a living. And that to me was the quote of all. And I was like, you know what? That's it. It doesn't matter. And the sacrifices are horrible, man. I mean, the sacrifice is rough, and it's like, sure, you see people going off and getting married and having kids, and you're just sitting there, and I'm like, I'm sitting in my room that I grew up in, still living at home, still pushing out the podcast, trying to make it. And it's like, should I feel bad for myself that I'm here, or should I feel grateful that I'm trying to accomplish greatness? You know, it's the fine line that I don't think anyone understands unless you're in the industry.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you know, I always look at it too. You know, if you're not thinking about at least quitting once a month, you're not doing it right.
Oh my God, you know? Exactly, man. Oh man, I can't tell you how many times I was like, you know what? I'm strapping the boots up. I'm effing done. No more. I'm just gonna struggle like we have my whole life. And I wonder, because you said you grew up kind of that way. Does it ever cross your mind where you're like, you know what? I struggled my whole entire life. My family has struggled to pay bills. That's just my life. Maybe I should quit this and just go struggle because I knew we made it.
Well, you know, what's funny, and it's why I love this business, man. I truly do, is because, you know, there's only a certain amount of people that can do this. There's a lot of people that can play and sing, but there's only a certain amount of people that can say that they do this for a living and make a living doing it. And, you know, this job puts you in the realm, not, you know, from like a stature perspective, but like, man, I get to meet, you know, people that I couldn't meet with a ticket, you know, but because I do this job, you know, and I hang out with stockbrokers and, you know, play golf with millionaires and stuff like that. And, you know, I'm just a little independent artist, man, that's grinding out, you know, but through this job, which is something that only a certain amount of people can do for a living, you know, that's admired and appreciated by a lot of the masses in a way. And so it's something, you know, kind of unique and really cool, that if you are going to work for yourself, if you are going to do this, it kind of gives you you can kind of skip a couple levels necessarily on the poverty chain if you can play a little guitar. So,
you know, I wonder, because I struggle with this a lot too. And I'm pretty sure you've seen it happen being in Nashville for 7 or 8 years, that you've been struggling for almost a decade trying to, you know what I mean? You're trying to blast off, trying to be this next big thing. And there's just one guy that comes in, he's there for 6 months, automatically signs a record deal as the next big thing. Like, I wonder, how do you take that? Because I would do that on the podcast, and people are like, man, I'm starting a podcast. I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. Next thing you know, they're signing like $1 million contract with iHeartRadio. And I'm like, little old me over here has been doing this forever. You know, how do you feel? How do you take that?
Yeah, I think it's just all about perspective. It's all about what what the record labels are looking for at that particular time and stuff like that. Isn't necessarily even something that I want to pursue. That's an ongoing thing where it's like maybe it's a small time record deal because I've never been one that's like I moved to Nashville to make it. That's never been me. Like making it to me is doing this for a living, yeah. Writing the best songs that I possibly can, and doing it at a high level. If I do my craft at a high level, I'm going to do just fine. If I put in the work, I'm going to be okay. And so I'm happy. I'm happy for guys that come in and get it done. Record deals aren't what they used to be. They're not 10, 15-year deals anymore. It's we're gonna give you a little trial run here, see how you do. We'll give you a record, and so it's really touch and go, man. I totally look at this a business as a marathon. It's a long process. I'm still learning every single day. It's not something, I feel like the stuff I'm writing right now is better than the stuff that I even have on this brand new record that's coming out that I've just written here in the past few weeks. And if you're not doing that, then I feel like you have a problem if you don't feel like you're getting better. But no, man, I'm happy for anybody that can come to town and get them a record deal. It's a tough business, and any success at all is a big deal. Just this morning or whatever, we popped up on the iTunes main page, and the album did in the pre-order section, and I looked there and I see Morgan Wallen, I see Loretta Lynn, I see myself right there, and that's some pretty solid company. Start out on Thursday morning, so I'm excited about where everything's going. I know it's a long process, and just trying to enjoy the process, because it won't always be the same, and I'll miss the days that I struggled and when everything seemed like it was easier anyways.
I want to know the personal side of Addison Johnson. I want to know, when you're not fishing, when you're not writing music, what are you doing to chill out? What are your other hobbies?
Oh man, I like playing a little golf now and then. Big sports fan, so I catch games. But play some video games here and there, and just hang out, man. I'm definitely I'm out on the road. I see people all the time, and I'm fishing. I see people all the time, and when I come home, I just like being home, man. And if I live out in the country and if I don't see anybody for 10 days, sometimes that's okay with me, man. Just hanging out.
I wonder, when you were growing up, was it out in the country? Because you said you live out in the country now. Were you out in the sticks?
Yeah, we moved a lot when I was young. In some situations, it was out in the country. In some situations, it was in apartments and things like that. Also did some growing up around Boone, North Carolina. So it was kind of a mishmash of things. I think my life has always been kind of country centric. Anyways, I've always, that's kind of what we did for fun. Even when we did live in an apartment, we'd go out to the family's house or something now, have a bonfire, or go on the farm or do things like that.
Was there ever this feeling, because I know I feel it because I've lived in the country my whole life, and I don't hate it, but I want the life where you have an HOA, your neighbor is like 10 feet away from you. I wanted to live that life because I've never had to. So was that ever cross your mind, or were you like, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do, where I'm going to be?
Well, man, after I moved just to the outskirts of Nashville, but after I know you're talking about growing up, but after living in Nashville for almost 10 years now, and living in the city, just 10 minutes from downtown and being in the hustle and bustle, man, I tell you, when I did move to the country, just felt the anxiety come way down.
Yeah.
Like it just seemed like a huge, weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Just to even go to the grocery store or the gas station, those were hour and a half journeys to go and do that. They can knock that out in 5 minutes over here, and we're only about 40 minutes from town. So, I still get into town quite a bit, but I definitely like it in the country, and that might be me getting older too, and not getting out and about and raising as much hell as it used to, anyways.
What's the most interesting thing that you've learned or heard in the past couple of days?
Well, I don't know, to be honest with you. It's kind of hoping that 21 wasn't going to be a repeat of 2020. That's
Yeah, man. We asked for a better year and we got a crap start to it, didn't we?
Yeah. We made it 5 days, didn't we?
Made it 5 days. I'm reading this book now, and it's called Rabid, and it's about the process of rabies. I for some reason it just caught my eye. I was like, never knew about it, so I was like, started reading it. The most interesting thing about it is I was not aware that back in the day, dogs were bred for food. Like, and it makes sense. It makes sense to me now why there's always these racist things about, the Chinese are eating the dogs and cats because it used to happen.
Sure. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Well, I'm a huge documentary junkie.
Me too.
And so I love, and on anything, if I had to pick, I'm fascinated with the mafia. Both the world wars. Anything kind of dark like that, I'm interested in, just more or less. And I've written about it. My single Rolling Stolen was kind of based off of, loosely based off of, the Cocaine Cowboys documentaries, and a little bit of The Godfather, and just, the whole gold rush of running cocaine in the 1980s. It was such a monster deal in that time, with just billions of dollars flooding into the country. I was like, well, I mean, can you really be an outlaw country singer if you're not going to, write about that? So, no, I definitely draw some experience from watching about 1 million documentaries a week.
I'm a giant documentary fan. So, like, if there's a new streaming service, I'll automatically go to the documentaries and see what they have.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
For me, now when you watch a documentary, because I will switch back and forth, and for me, I love learning about stuff that I already know about. For some reason, I already know it, but I'm gonna want to know the same thing over. And then I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I need to smarten up, forget about what I love, and just go to something interesting, because I'll get bored with it. Then I get bored with the new interesting thing because it's boring, and it's like you don't know what side of the coin to go to. So, like,
oh yeah.
It's
well, and finding out more information. That documentary, even though you might know what it's talking about, there might be information in there that you haven't heard before. So you gotta watch it. You gotta watch it, and so it's cool. I mean, I've watched probably every documentary known to man on the New York crime family, and then 3 months ago, Netflix puts another one out. Our Fear City, I think is what it's called. Had to watch it, and it was great. They did a great job. It was about the FBI doing wiretaps on John Gotti and the Gambino crime family and all that. And so it was a good watch. Though.
Have you watched the Dean Dillon documentary? I think it's on Amazon.
Yes. I believe it's on.
Yes, that guy is an interesting cat. He has a story unlike any other, man. I was sitting here watching, because I'm just a big music nerd, and I'm sitting here watching. I'm like, I bet I know everything about Dean Dillon. I had no clue this guy's story was crazy.
He's a goat, man. He's one of the best on two legs to ever write a song. I mean, he's incredible. I've had buddies that have written with him and stuff, and I'm like, see, really like that? And they're like, absolutely. Dude is 100% authentic. He, you know, he writes. I mean, God, he's got 1 million #1 hits. I mean, he truly is one of the pioneers and icons. And I think, he's done something that's unprecedented and probably we might not ever see again where, from the 60s and 70s, he was able to be successful through that and all the way through, even till today, he's still getting cuts. And I mean, you look at somebody like even Alan Jackson and George Strait, who's, whether they've retired or, they were for the most part shown the door. I mean, I don't think that's out of line in saying that, towards the, probably around the 2015 range that they were shown the door. And Dean Dillon has been able to continue to write songs and be successful. And I think that's something pretty incredible. And but love that documentary. Yeah, it's great.
The most fascinating thing I saw in there, besides his life, was when they were writing The Chair for George Strait. And when he goes to the bridge where he goes, "Oh, I like it too, and to tell you the truth." I did not realize that was Crazy.
Yeah.
The lick from Crazy. And I was sitting there, I was like, oh my goodness. And I'm like, I'm crazy for trying crazy. I'm like, that is the same lick. And the story behind that was just nuts as well. But yeah, that I'm a big documentary junkie as well. It gets to the realm of music, how movies were made, and the most stupid stuff that no one really cares about. That's what
it's funny. It's funny you bring that documentary up because I don't know, it was probably 6-8 months ago. I had watched that documentary and it was feeling for the first time and I felt pretty inspired by it. And I sat down and I wrote a song called Blue Eyes Red. And it's a new song that's going to be on this record. And basically it's about it's about alcoholism. And that's something that I dealt with in 10 years living in Nashville and 2 years sober now. But even hearing Dean, how he had struggled with that and stuff like that, I really related to that and literally turned off that documentary and wrote that song, and it made the record. And I think it's probably going to be kind of the unofficial fourth single off the album once it releases.
Man, I got a couple more questions for it. I'll let you go if you're cool with that. I want to know, what is your David and Goliath story? And I'll explain quickly. There's this book and it's called David and Goliath, and it's about how David was supposed to fight Goliath and he went his own way and ultimately defeated Goliath. So I wonder, is there a time in your life where somebody was like, you have to do it this way? And you're like, no, I'm going to go my own way about it. And it was successful.
Yeah. Man, I think, to be honest with you, not to just give it like one subject, I think I'm still in it right now. I think, you come to Nashville and they tell you that you have to write songs a certain way, and I didn't really feel like doing that. And, even after I signed a little publishing deal, it didn't seem to fit for me. And, I've had a lot of people say, well, if you don't play by the rules, you're not going to be very successful in this town. And we put out 2 EPs that went number 11 and number 5 on the country iTunes charts. And I think I think we're doing really good already with just 2 days in on the Dark Side of the Mountain record. And so, to be honest with you, I think I'm still fighting it right now.
What's your ghost story? Do you have any kind of weird coincidences that you can't explain that's happened to you?
Ooh, I don't know, man. I've been I've been fishing on the water at night sometimes, and think I see something
Yeah.
kind of split through it. Can't really tell if it's fog. Don't really know if I should just get the hell out of there and go home. But yeah, I feel like I might have seen a couple things on the water from time to time.
And is your first instinct, oh, that's just my mind playing tricks on me because it's dark out here?
No, my first instinct is that's a ghost.
You know, the reason I used to ask these all the time, and I just kind of stopped because it just kept getting old after a while. But I had this experience here at my house. My whole family experienced it, so I know I'm not crazy. So
Yeah.
one day, if you wouldn't mind me sharing the story, I just want to see the look. I want to see the look on your face when what you think's happening. So one morning, me and my mom's just sitting in the living room. We drinking coffee and we're just having a chat because I have a podcast that day. And she looks over at me and I look over at her, and we just started sniffing for some reason. It was just like you smelled something, didn't know what it was. And I said, "Hey mom, you smell that?" And she goes, "That's cigarette smoke, isn't it?" And I said, "That's exactly what I smell." And so, quick backstory, her dad smoked, and we live now in her parents' old house before my grandma up and moved. And so my grandpa died when I was 4 or 5. And she always, here's the weird thing, she always kept a pack of his last pack of cigarettes. She kept them in her jewelry box locked. And from time to time, we would smell it. And you just think, oh, he's here. He's just the presence. He's here. Or you're thinking about him that day, right?
Yeah.
Well, this particular day, we were doing construction in the hallway bathroom. So I go through her bedroom to go to the bathroom.
Right.
And for some reason, I look over to my right, and on her dresser, on her jewelry box, is that pack of cigarettes that was locked in the jewelry box sitting on top of the dresser. And so I'm like, Mom, you have to come see this. And she's like, "What's wrong?" And I came in there, and it was just amazing. It was just because people are starting to freak out. I'm like, I don't think it's nothing to freak out about. I just think it's here to say, hey, look, I'm here. You can stop thinking about me. I'm here. It was one of those weird situations, and I've never experienced anything like that. And I think because my family's all skeptics, and I want to believe it so bad. And it's just like, now I think that that there is something along those lines of an afterlife like that.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I've got enough balls to say that I believe in it, but I certainly don't have enough balls to say that it doesn't exist.
100%. Yep. That's like somebody that says, I hit 12 home runs in one game, and you're not there, so you're like, well, I can't not say you did it because I wasn't there.
You walk the line on that one. I mean, I don't want them coming over here because they, think I don't believe in them. So,
well, look, man, I appreciate your time. Go ahead and talk about this new album, Dark Side of the Mountain. When is it officially coming out? Because you can pre-order right now.
Yeah, you can pre-order on iTunes right now, and here on the Hodgepodge podcast. If you send me a screenshot of it, if you PM it to me, I'll hook you up with some free merch, and it'll be on pre-order till February 26th. And so really excited to get it out. It's like I said earlier in the podcast, it's my first ever full record, 10 songs on it, all written by me. I did not get one co-writer on this record. I was very selfish during my quarantine time. I didn't do a lot of Zoom writing, and decided just to throw these collections of songs on here. And it's a ton of story songs. It's some stuff about me, and really excited to get it out there for everybody to see here.
Well, man, I appreciate you. I know I'm not the best interviewer, and I know it's probably not the best show you've been on, but I do appreciate your time on here. I really do.
No, dude, I had a freaking blast, man. It was a great questions. I had fun. I get you didn't ask me what my influences were, so was it really even an interview? You know what I mean?
Right, right. And that's the whole point. I don't want you to go in here thinking it's an interview, because then a lot of people get nervous and then they're like, oh man, here we go. It's just a chat between two people. And now a lot of people know more about you, and not just the average artist questions you're asked all the time. And I think
Dude.
I try to hit that all the time. Sometimes it doesn't work. So I always have notes just in case it goes haywire on me.
Oh man, I like I said, I really appreciate you having me on. It was very ideal timing for me. And hey, if we can hook up down the line and do it again, I do a check back in story maybe down the road. I'd love to get back on.
Absolutely, we'll have you back on, and I'm having more podcast merch made. So I'll once it comes in, I'll send you over some hats and shirts, whatever I have.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I'll do the same.
All right, cool, man. Appreciate it. You have a good one, man. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care. See you.